The rain had been falling for hours by the time the train crossed the edge of the mountains. Soft rain. The kind that blurred distant lights and turned the entire world outside into watercolor reflections beneath the night sky. Inside the cabin, everything glowed with warmth. Amber lanterns painted soft golden shadows across the wooden walls while the gentle rhythm of the train echoed quietly beneath the floor. You sat near the wide window, wrapped inside a heavy blanket, watching raindrops slowly race each other down the glass. Beyond the tracks, the sleeping towns of Japan drifted silently through the darkness. Tiny lanterns flickered beside empty streets. Rivers reflected the moonlight like silver ribbons. And somewhere far away, hidden behind clouds and rain, Mount Fuji stood quietly over the entire night. The train never moved too fast. It simply glided softly through the storm like it had nowhere urgent to be. And somehow, that feeling comforted you. For so long, life had felt loud. Too loud. Too rushed. Every morning felt unfinished before it even began. Every night disappeared too quickly. Messages. Notifications. Conversations left unanswered. Dreams pushed aside because there was never enough time. But tonight was different. Tonight there was only the rain. And the train. And the endless dark blue world passing quietly outside the window. You reached for the warm cup resting beside the candle. Steam curled gently upward into the dim cabin air. The scent of tea mixed softly with the smell of rain drifting faintly through the old train vents. Everything felt strangely peaceful here. As if this cabin existed outside of time itself. The train curved gently along the edge of the lake. And suddenly, the city lights appeared. Thousands of glowing reflections stretched across the dark water while distant buildings shimmered beneath the rain like floating stars. For a moment, you forgot entirely where you were. The world outside no longer looked real. It looked like a dream someone forgot to wake up from. You pulled the blanket closer around yourself and listened carefully. The soft humming rails. The distant storm. The rain against the glass. Somewhere further down the train, someone quietly turned the page of a book. Then silence again. Comfortable silence. The kind that allows your thoughts to breathe. The train passed slowly beside an old station hidden between the mountains. Only a few lanterns still glowed beneath the wooden roof. An elderly man stood quietly near the tracks holding a transparent umbrella while the rain fell gently around him. For a brief moment, your eyes met as through the glass. And somehow, even from a distance, he smiled softly. Then the station disappeared behind the storm. You watched until the final lantern faded completely into the darkness. The train continued deeper into the mountains. Fog slowly rolled between the trees now, covering the forests in silver mist while cherry blossom petals drifted across the tracks like tiny pieces of forgotten spring. The rain became softer. Almost whispering. You leaned your head gently against the cool window. Outside, the lake reflected the moon in broken fragments between ripples caused by the storm. Somewhere across the water, a pagoda glowed warmly above the sleeping town. Its reflection shimmered endlessly across the rain-covered streets below. The entire world felt suspended between reality and dreams. And for the first time in a long while, You no longer felt the need to escape your own thoughts. The train moved slower now. Almost carefully. As though it understood the silence surrounding the night. You reached for the small notebook resting beside the candlelight. The pages remained mostly empty. There were many things you once wanted to write. Memories you never fully understood. Places you wanted to visit. Versions of yourself you hoped one day you would become. But tonight, the words no longer felt urgent. The silence itself was enough. You watched another raindrop slide slowly down the glass. Then another. Then another. The storm outside became hypnotic. Time dissolved quietly inside the rhythm of the rails. Hours seemed to pass without meaning anything at all. The train continued endlessly through forests and sleeping villages while warm lanterns flickered softly in distant windows beneath the rain. At some point, you realized you had stopped thinking about tomorrow completely. No future. No past. Only this moment. Only the warm glow of the cabin. Quiet movement of the train. And the endless Japanese night stretching softly beyond the glass. The candle beside you flickered gently as the storm grew heavier again. Rain poured across the window now, distorting the entire outside world into blurred lights and moving colors. The train entered a tunnel. Darkness swallowed everything for a few seconds. Only the soft lantern light remained inside the cabin. Warm. Safe. Still. You looked at your reflection faintly mirrored against the glass. Tired eyes. Quiet thoughts. A version of yourself that finally seemed calm. The tunnel ended slowly. And once again, the mountains appeared outside beneath the storm. Somewhere above the clouds, moonlight illuminated the snowy peak of Mount Fuji like a silent guardian watching over the night. The sight stole your breath away for a moment. The mountain stood completely still while the rest of the world continued moving endlessly around it. And somehow, it reminded you that not everything in life needed to rush forward constantly. Some things were meant simply to exist quietly. Beautifully. Patiently. The train crossed another bridge above dark water. Rain struck the surface of the lake in thousands of tiny silver circles while reflections of distant lanterns shimmered softly beneath the storm. You closed your eyes for a moment. The sound of the rails became slower now. Steadier. Almost like breathing. You could feel sleep slowly pulling at your thoughts. The blanket felt warmer. The cabin lights softer. Even the rain outside seemed gentler now. As though the entire world had grown quieter together. Far away in another cabin, soft music played briefly before fading again into silence. The train moved endlessly forward through the sleeping country. Village after village disappeared into the night behind you. And yet, instead of feeling lost, you felt strangely found. Because somewhere between the storm, the lantern light, the endless mountains, and the soft rhythm of the rails, you had finally remembered something important. Rest was not weakness. Silence was not emptiness. And slowing down did not mean you were falling behind. Sometimes, the soul simply needed quiet places like this. Places where no one expected anything from you. Places where the rain could wash the noise out of your mind for a while. Places where you could simply exist without needing to explain yourself. Outside the glass, the storm slowly began to calm. The rain softened into tiny drifting drops while the clouds parted slightly above the mountains. For the first time all night, faint stars became visible between the moving clouds. The lake reflected them softly like scattered pieces of light floating across the darkness. The train continued peacefully beside the water. Steady. Calm. Endless. And slowly, your eyes began to close. The warmth of the cabin wrapped gently around you while the final sounds of rain faded into the distance. The candle flickered one last time beside the notebook. The lantern light glowed softly against the wooden walls. And somewhere beyond the mountains, far beyond the sleeping villages and silent lakes, morning waited patiently for the train to arrive. But for now, the night still belonged to you. And the train carried you quietly forward through the endless rain beneath the stars.